Imagine working, 80 hours a week for a decade just to finally afford that massive $1 million dream house.
Yeah, the absolute grind.
Right. You buy the luxury cars, you stock the gourmet kitchen, and then you sit down at the sprawling dining room table only to realize you are so utterly miserable that you would actually rather be eating a stale crust of bread in a quiet alleyway.
It sounds extreme, but it happens all the time.
It really does. And the crazy thing is, 3,000 years ago, an ancient king wrote a blueprint explaining exactly why this happens and, more importantly, how to avoid it. So, welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is exploring a text that is shockingly modern in its psychological accuracy. We are looking at Proverbs chapter 17.
Yeah, these are wisdom sayings traditionally attributed to Solomon.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes them so arresting isn't, it's not their poetic language, but how ruthlessly practical they are.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't abstract philosophy at all. It's a ground-level manual on relationships, emotional self-control, and really just the mechanics of human character.
And what's wild is that, you expect ancient texts to feel totally disconnected from our daily reality, like dusty scrolls behind museum glass.
Right.
But this chapter just shatters that glass. It holds up a mirror reflecting the exact same relationship drama, the same workplace anxiety, and the same emotional burnout that you and I are dealing with right now.
Because honestly, the core premise hasn't changed in 3 millennia. True character and thoughtful relationships generate a meaningful life, while reactionary, foolish behavior guarantees unnecessary suffering.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can even begin to figure out how to navigate the chaos of the outside world, this text forces us to audit our internal priorities. It starts by completely dismantling how we measure wealth.
It absolutely flips the modern script. I mean, take the very first verse. It says, "Better is a dry morsel and quietness therewith than a house full of sacrifices with strife."
I just love that contrast. A dry morsel versus a house full of sacrifices. Now, just to be clear on the historical context here, a house full of sacrifices wasn't just about religious rituals, right? It was more like the ancient equivalent of a perpetual barbecue.
That is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
In the ancient Near East, when you offered a sacrifice, you didn't just burn the whole animal.
Right.
A portion was burned, and the rest was roasted and eaten by the family and guests in this massive feast.
Right.
So having a house full of sacrifices meant you had an abundance of rich meat.
Hmm.
You were wealthy. You were the house everyone wanted to be invited to.
But then comes the caveat, right? The strife.
Exactly.
You've got the 5-course meal, the perfectly marbled steak, but everyone at the table is screaming at each other. The tension is so thick you can barely chew, and the proverb makes this radical claim that you are objectively wealthier, sitting completely alone, chewing on a stale crust of bread, if your nervous system is at peace.
What's fascinating here is the underlying psychological truth they recognized long before we had the clinical language for it.
Huh.
We tend to think that material abundance will insulate us from emotional distress.
Oh, for sure.
We tell ourselves, if I just get this promotion, if we just get a bigger house, all the stress will vanish.
Let me push back on that a little, though, because it's really easy to romanticize poverty from a distance, right? Money does solve a lot of problems. It pays for healthcare. It keeps the heat on. Isn't this kind of proverb just an ancient coping mechanism for people who didn't have anything?
That is the natural modern objection, yeah. But look closer at what the text is actually targeting. It's not romanticizing poverty at all.
Yeah.
It's critiquing the utility of wealth when the environment is toxic.
Okay.
Think about the physiological toll of constant conflict. If you were in a state of perpetual strife, whether that's a bitter marriage, a cutthroat corporate job, or just a divided family, your brain is constantly pumping out cortisol and adrenaline.
Right.
Your fight-or-flight system is literally locked in the on position.
Which means you can't even digest that 5-course meal anyway.
Exactly. The wealth becomes completely useless because your biological state prevents you from enjoying it. And the text goes even deeper into this mind-body connection in verse 22. It says, "A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones."
Drieth the bones. Man, that is such a visceral, heavy phrase.
It really is.
Anyone who has ever been through severe burnout or a deep depression knows exactly what that feels like. It's this deep, exhausting depletion where your very skeleton feels tired.
Yeah, and modern science calls this psychoneuroimmunology. It's the study of how your psychological state affects your nervous and immune systems. When your spirit is broken, when you are living in chronic stress, grief, or bitterness, It literally suppresses your immune system. It
Wow.
restricts blood flow, it slows down cellular repair, and it quite literally ages your body.
So when it says a merry heart does good like a medicine, that isn't just a cute metaphor on a greeting card. It's a biological reality.
It is a profound medical observation made thousands of years ago. Optimism, gratitude, internal peace, they biologically build resilience. When we look at this through a broader lens, God's design for human flourishing is deeply, undeniably tied to our emotional peace, not the size of our bank accounts.
That makes total sense. But here is the massive elephant in the room, I think. Maintaining a merry heart is pretty effortless when the sun is shining, your bank account is full, and everyone in your house is getting along.
Sure.
What happens when the pressure hits? Because internal peace is easy until it gets tested.
And that leads us directly into how this ancient wisdom frames hardship and adversity. The crucible moments, basically.
Right, let's look at verse 3. It says, "The fining pot is for silver, and the furnace for gold, but the Lord trieth the hearts." The imagery instantly shifts from the dining room to a blacksmith's forge.
And to understand why that shift matters, we have to look at the mechanics of ancient metallurgy. You don't purify silver or gold by gently wiping it with a polishing cloth.
No, of course not.
You have to subject it to intense, searing heat. You put it in a crucible, and you turn the fire up so high that the metal literally melts into a liquid.
So why does it have to be that hot, though? Like, what is the heat actually doing to the metal?
The heat changes the viscosity of the metal. It allows all the hidden impurities, the dross, the base metals, the dirt that is woven into the gold, to separate and rise to the surface. The silversmith can't remove the dross until the fire forces it to the top. Only then can it be skimmed away, leaving this pure, reflective metal behind.
Okay, so if we map that onto human psychology, when we are comfortable, we think we are incredibly patient, kind, and generous people. But the truth is, our impurities are just hidden because the temperature is low.
Precisely. You don't really know if you have patience until you are stuck in gridlock traffic while running late for the most important meeting of your life.
Yeah, that's the real test.
Right. You don't know your capacity for grace until someone deeply betrays you. The challenges, the setbacks, the scary medical diagnoses, these function as the furnace.
But when I'm in the furnace, when life is just hitting me with one crisis after another, it doesn't feel like I'm being purified. It feels like I'm being punished. It just feels like I'm burning. How does this ancient perspective actually help us survive those moments?
By fundamentally changing the story we tell ourselves about our pain. If you believe adversity is just random cruelty, or that God is angrily punishing you, your only response is fear and resentment. You fight the fire.
Right?
But if you connect this to the imagery of the silversmith, everything shifts. The text says, "The Lord trieth the hearts." The silversmith doesn't put the precious metal into the furnace to destroy it. He puts it in the fire because it is incredibly valuable to him, and he wants to increase its purity.
That is a staggering paradigm shift. It means trusting God actually requires trusting the furnace.
Yes, exactly. It means recognizing that the intense pressure of your current crisis might be the exact mechanism required to bring your hidden flaws, your pride, your need for control, your selfishness to the surface so they could be dealt with. It moves your relationship with God from a posture of fearful appeasement to a posture of deep trust.
Okay, so the furnace turns up the heat. The internal pressure builds. And if there is one thing I know about pressure, it always looks for an escape valve.
It always finds a way out.
For most of us, that pressure escapes right through our mouths, which brings us to the outward ripple of all this internal character we've been talking about.
Proverbs 17 is absolutely relentless when it comes to human speech. It views our words as the ultimate, undeniable indicator of what is actually inside of us.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Look at verse 14. "The beginning of strife is as when one letteth out water, therefore leave off contention before it be meddled with." Picture a massive concrete dam holding back millions of gallons of pressurized water. If a tiny hairline crack forms, it doesn't just drip. The pressure forces the water into the crack, expanding it, tearing the concrete apart, until suddenly the whole dam spectacularly fails and wipes out the entire valley below.
It's a brilliant physical representation of a social dynamic. Once you open the valve on an argument, the momentum just takes over.
And think about how this applies today. Once you hit send on that angry email, or you post that reactionary tweet, or you drop a sarcastic comment in the middle of a tense meeting, you cannot put the water back behind the dam. The destruction is already racing down the valley.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Modern digital communication has effectively armed everyone with sledgehammers, and we are all just constantly tapping on each other's dams.
Wow, yeah, that's a great image.
We get a dopamine hit from the outrage, from the quick retort, from winning the argument online. But the text is warning us that we are playing with physics we can't control.
And it's not just explosive anger either. It's the slow leak of gossip, too. Verse 9 says, "He that covereth the transgression seeketh love, but he that repeateth the matter separateth very friends."
In an ancient survival community, trust was the absolute currency of life. If someone made a mistake and you immediately broadcast it to the whole village, you weren't just being annoying, you were destabilizing the social fabric everyone relied on to survive the winter. Repeating a matter destroyed alliances.
And it does the exact same thing today. Gossip is the fastest way to bankrupt trust in a workplace or a family. So if our words have the destructive power of a bursting dam, what is the actual mechanism for stopping it?
The mechanism is profoundly countercultural. Verses 27 and 28 say, "He that hath knowledge spareth his words, and a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise."
I love that sign off. Even an absolute fool looks like a genius if they just have the self-control to keep their mouth shut.
It's humorous, but it's grounded in hardcore neurology. Think about what happens during a heated conflict. Someone insults you. Instantly, your brain experiences an amygdala hijack.
Right.
Your emotional center bypasses your rational prefrontal cortex, and your body demands an immediate aggressive response.
But hold on, if someone is coming at you or spreading lies about you, doesn't staying silent just make you a doormat? Like, in our culture, if you don't aggressively speak your truth and defend your brand, people walk all over you.
There is a massive difference between passive weakness and strategic restraint. When you choose to hold your peace in the face of provocation, you are actually short-circuiting the conflict loop.
Oh, I see.
By pausing, you deny the other person the reaction they were looking for, forcing them to sit with their own aggression. Furthermore, those few seconds of silence allow your own prefrontal cortex to come back online so you can choose a rational response rather than an emotional reaction.
So holding your peace isn't surrendering. It's actually the ultimate display of power over yourself. It takes infinitely more strength to hold back the water than it does to just let the dam burst.
Precisely. In a culture that demands constant, immediate reactions, choosing not to speak is the ultimate indicator of spiritual and emotional maturity.
Which perfectly sets up the next crucial piece of this puzzle. Because if uncontrolled speech and gossip tear communities apart, what is the force that actually holds them together? Especially when we are stuck in that furnace of adversity we were talking about earlier.
That brings us to the anchor of authentic friendship.
Verse 17 states, "A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity." Think about your own life right now. In an era of completely superficial connections where we count our worth by social media followers and, fair weather networking contacts, who is actually standing next to you when the furnace gets hot? Who is in the fire with you?
To grasp the gravity of that phrase, born for adversity, you have to strip away our modern safety nets. Today, if you lose your job, there is unemployment insurance. If your house burns down, you have an insurance policy. In the ancient Near East, none of that existed. Your safety net was literally the people standing around you.
So friendship wasn't just having someone to grab a coffee and complain with. It was an economic and physical defense pact.
Exactly. If a famine hit, or marauders attacked, or a disease swept through your home, your loyal allies were the only thing standing between you and absolute ruin.
Wow.
Therefore, a relationship wasn't proven during the harvest festival when everyone was eating those sacrifices we talked about earlier. It was proven during the famine. A true brother is born for the moment things fall apart. They activate their highest purpose in your life precisely when you have nothing left to offer them.
It's like an airbag in a car. It sits there invisibly, but its entire reason for existing is the moment of impact.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks. And connecting this back to our overarching theme, this is how God tangibly provides for us in the furnace. God is the silversmith, yes, but he doesn't leave us in the crucible alone. He provides these incredibly resilient human connections to be his hands and feet during our worst seasons.
That is the beautiful interconnected ecosystem of this wisdom.
Hmm.
You invest in your character by seeking internal peace. You protect your relationships by refusing to gossip and by controlling your emotional reactions.
Yeah.
And because you have built that foundation of trust, when the inevitable adversity strikes, you have a fortress of loyal friends ready to step into the fire with you.
It really is a masterclass in how to live. Let's bring all these threads together to summarize exactly what this looks like in action. We've got to trade off quickly here to get through it all.
Okay, let's use verse 4 as our anchor for this synthesis. It says, "Wisdom is before him that hath understanding, but the eyes of a fool are in the ends of the earth."
The ends of the earth, that perfectly describes our modern attention span. We're constantly distracted.
Oh, entirely.
We are doom scrolling the news, obsessing over the lives of celebrities on another continent, looking for the next luxury to acquire or the next digital argument to win. Our eyes are everywhere except where they need to be.
Distraction is the enemy of wisdom. Notice how the text says, "Wisdom is before him that has understanding." It is right in front of you. True wisdom isn't about acquiring massive amounts of trivia or holding the entire internet in your smartphone. Wisdom is an active, lived philosophy.
It all connects. It starts by recognizing that your internal peace and your physical health are vastly more valuable than whatever stressful promotion or luxury item you are chasing.
Which gives you the emotional baseline required to face the furnace. You stop viewing hardship as a cruel punishment and start recognizing it as the intense heat required to refine your character and strip away your hidden flaws.
And as that character is refined, it transforms how you communicate. You realize the devastating, dam-bursting power of your words. You stop gossiping. You stop reacting impulsively. You learn the profound psychological strength of simply pausing and holding your peace.
And because you govern your words and protect trust, you cultivate relationships that aren't just superficial networks, but absolute anchors. You build a community of people who are, quite literally, born to stand with you in adversity.
It's the difference between knowing the dictionary definition of self-control and actually having the restraint to keep your mouth shut when someone insults you. Wisdom is what you do, not just what you know.
This raises an important question about how we view the obstacles in our lives right now. We talked heavily about the furnace. If we truly believe that God uses adversity to refine our character like gold, skimming off the impurities, we have to rethink our daily frustrations.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about the most difficult person you have to interact with every week, or the incredibly frustrating, seemingly unfair situation you are stuck in right now. We normally view these things as roadblocks.
Right, we just want them gone.
Exactly. We pray for them to be removed so we can get back to our peaceful lives. But perhaps that person or that situation isn't an obstacle blocking your path. Perhaps they are the exact tool the silversmith is using right now to burn away your impatience, your pride, or your fear.
Wow. That completely reframes the narrative. It turns the very things driving us crazy into the stepping stones of our own maturity, and it forces us to lean into our trust in God's daily guidance rather than fighting against it.
It really does.
We've broken the museum glass today. The wisdom of Proverbs 17 isn't a relic. It is a live blueprint for everything, from our nervous systems to our deepest friendships. We've mapped out the ancient text, we've broken down the psychology, and we've explored the profound modern applications. Now it's entirely in your hands. So how will you apply this information in your life?